little bit of time travel for you now. We're going to go back to the summer, which is just as well because it's bloody miserable at the moment. And in fact, a very specific date in the summer, the 25th of July. Why is that important? Well, it's not important, but it is significant because that was the day it appeared that we were getting one over on Manchester United for the Bayern Munich defender Noussair Mazraoui. Now, this was important, and I'll tell you why it was important. Because Manchester United have been chasing this player. This is the guy that they had highlighted to take over from Aaron Wan Bissaka. Now, Wan Bissaka at this point, and it is really interesting to view this through the prism of how things were viewed back then, because we're going to look at it very differently later on in the video, because we're going to fast forward to now. Erik was manager of Manchester United, and he was looking to, I guess, sort of implement more of an expansive style into his team that was going to be more akin to the way that he had played at Ajax. Now, of course, Mazraoui was going to be very, very familiar to Ten Hag and everybody at Ajax because that is where he'd come from. He'd come from, I'm not sure if he came through the Ajax Academy or not, but he'd certainly been there a number of years. I think he signed for Bayern Munich on a free transfer, and played really well there, and it caught the attention of Manchester United and West Ham. Now, West Ham were obviously in the market for a fullback, and we were liking this guy. And when we were linked to him, a lot of us, myself included, thought, well, actually, this is a really, really good player. Very versatile, could play in a number of positions. But here's the point. The reason I thought he was good was because he was versatile. He seemed to be able to defend. He could play in a number of positions on the back line, could play in central defensive midfield, but he could also play as fullback. He could offer a bit of both. He could do the defensive stuff. He could do the attacking stuff. The reason that Manchester United wanted him was absolutely clear. He was better than the one-dimensional Aaron Wan Bissaka. Wan Bissaka, of course, had got a bit of a reputation. No one was saying that Wan Bissaka was crap. Far from it. In fact, if you go rewind a little bit further back than that, for a time earlier on in the transfer window, certainly, the early part of July, West Ham were in for both Aaron Wan Bissaka and interested in Kyle Walker-Peters. And it was very much a case of, do we go and get Wan Bissaka, who's going to offer us a little bit more defensively, or do we go for the attacking guy, Kyle Walker-Peters? It was sort of either or, wasn't it? There was sort of nothing very much in between, but there was nobody. Nobody was saying, Aaron Wan Bissaka, he can do the attacking stuff. Not only not us, but that's why Manchester United were getting rid of him. And here's how much I think Aaron Wan Bissaka's stock had fallen. He left Crystal Palace to join Manchester United for £50 million. I think it might have been 45, but it was 50 million if everything had been hit. And I think it probably didn't get hit. It was probably, like when they do these, the add-ons. The add-ons might have been, I don't know, regular qualification for the Champions League, which Manchester United just didn't do on a regular basis. Maybe it was a league title, but whatever. He was a £50 million player, even if they only ended up paying 45 million. And I think there were a lot of people that suggested that maybe that pressure hung heavy on his shoulders. Maybe that's a good case. You could look at his mate Wilfried Zaha and say the same happened. Went from Crystal Palace, Man United, didn't really work out. It was a heavy burden on him, went back to Crystal Palace, and he was sensational, wasn't he? I think most would agree, despite his diving and all his larking around, on his day, when he was back at Crystal Palace, Wilfried Zaha was a complete pain in the arse. One of the most skillful players in the Premier League. But maybe that was it. Maybe he couldn't handle being a small fish in the big pond. Are you a small fish, though, if you go for £50 million? I think you're probably not. Anyway, he went there. But his stock had fallen so far down that when West Ham were rumoured to be interested in him at between 15 and 18 million, some people were saying that's too much. We're paying too much for this player. He wanted some quite decent wages as well. Not anything that would make him the club's top earner, but he wanted something near to 100 grand a week. You had the little bit of drama with the payoff. He was due a loyalty payment from from Manchester United. Similar thing had happened with Harry Maguire. He was sticking around. A few problems with the agent, but the problems with the agent were more to do with Manchester United than West Ham. Why? Well, because his agent is Will Salthouse, and as much as many of us do not like that particular link, in this instance, it seems to have done West Ham a massive favour. So it appeared that we'd basically completely cut Manchester United out of the deal for Mazraoui, but they came back. They came back, and they did us. And in the end, Mazraoui had his head turned, and he wanted to go to Old Trafford, which at the time meant that we had to go with our second choice. Southampton did not want to do a deal for Kyle Walker-Peters. They didn't want to involve Flynn Downs in this deal at all. And they had demanded £25 million, which we were saying, well, that's too much. He's available in 12 months' time for free, basically. At the end of this season, he's available for free. I think he might even join West Ham still. Anyway, that basically happened. So we were left with almost one choice, which was our second choice. I might say our third choice, which was Aaron Wan Bissaka. Now, you all know where this story goes because we've ended up getting the best player out of the bunch. And it was never meant to beat us. Maybe, just maybe, that little thing we're getting involved with Mazraoui was a little bit of a genius thing. But actually, we went and tried to nick the player that Manchester United really wanted, even though we didn't want him. And we had that whole... we gave them FOMO. We gave Manchester United FOMO. And in the end, they went and got Mazraoui. And then we were able to say, oh, do you know what? We might take Aaron Wan Bissaka off your hands. Read a stat yesterday which said that Aaron Wan Bissaka has got the second most successful dribbles of any defender in the Premier League. Nouri, I don't know if this is true. Nouri's the only one with more. I read it. I think I read it on a tweet somewhere, right? I know that's no barometer. I've hardly read it off Y Scout or Opta, have I? But that's what it said. Do you know what? I didn't think it was a lie. I didn't disbelieve it. I read that. I thought, yeah, okay, that sounds about right. He scored 2 goals for West Ham this season. I wouldn't put it past him to score another. I think you'll get another assist, certainly. I think you can make the point that West Ham have a really, really good attacking fullback. You're still getting all that stuff. Ironically, I didn't think it was best defensive performance against Arsenal, but forget that. You're allowed one, right? He's been really good defensively, but I didn't expect all the other stuff. I make no apology for it. He is... I did a little Q&A the other day. Did a little Q&A with somebody about an ongoing, upcoming project, and they asked me who my favourite West Ham player was, and I said, what, historically? And he said, well, we'll get to that. That's like in 3 questions' time. Who's your favourite West Ham player right now? Oh, well, that's a different question, isn't it? That's funny. That's not over the last 3 years. You might say it was Jarrod Bowen. You might say it was Thomas Souček. Right now. And I answered quick. Really quick. Probably too quick. And you know what I said? Obi Wan Bissaka. Now, on reflection, I thought, oh, should I have said that? I even asked if I could go back and change the answer. I don't know who I was going to change it to. It just felt odd. It felt like I shouldn't be saying that quite so soon. And it might not even be true, but I tell you what, he's bloody one of them. I've said on numerous times he's my favourite signing of the summer. And he's a bit of a miracle player. He is that guy that can play in not any position. Maybe he hasn't got Mazraoui's versatility. I'll tell you something, this is going to sound a little bit silly. Such was our lack of athleticism in midfield against Brentford. I'm not suggesting this is the long-term strategy or anything like that, but I thought to myself, if we had had 2 Aaron Wan Bissakas, which is crazy, how can you? I'd have stuck one of them in the middle for the second half in that game. The truth of the matter is he was probably needed at right wing-back, he was probably needed at right centre-back, he was probably needed at full-back, he was needed in any number of positions. I think he's quite a miraculous player, and I feel like when I look at it, it's a tough one. I don't wish to be mean on Mazraoui because actually he's picked up an injury. And you know what? He got... It turns out, since he signed for Man United, he actually turns out he had a heart defect. I thought he wouldn't necessarily be able to play again. So, no, nothing against Mazraoui at all, but I think we got a better player. And it makes me wonder when I look at, and particularly for Premier League level, you'd have to say as well, when I look at Erik ten Hag and his appraisal on how he looked at the Manchester United squad and thought, well, that guy can't do the stuff that I want him to do. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe he couldn't do the intricate passages of passing play that Ten Hag ultimately wanted. But to say that Aaron Wan Bissaka can't attack is not true. It's not true at all. He can attack, and he can attack bloody well. I don't know what was more impressive the run that resulted in the assist or the one just before? I'll say just before. It was probably 15 minutes before. Set Jarrod Bowen up and he shot with his right foot. It was a really good run. I guess it was the one that yielded the goal was the better run, but the fact that you might think about it for 2 seconds tells you quite how good he is. He's almost like the perfect Premier League player in many respects, and I'm a bit blown away by how good he is, really. We never would have been able to buy this player. We're lucky that he's gone full Wilfried Zaha. We're lucky that he's in his late 20s, and we're lucky that he's been to a big club and perceived to have failed. Let me just quantify that. I think there are players, possibly even managers, who have been at Manchester United since Sir Alex Ferguson left, or maybe David Moyes is a great example, who will go on and succeed and do okay. Maybe Rashford will do that at Aston Villa. Maybe there are a number of players. There's a lot wrong at Manchester United. I think that's the point. And I think maybe individually it's no reflection on any of the individuals, you know. Maybe Ten Hag is actually okay and it was Man United dragging him down. Maybe, and you could say that for a lot of players. I think it's certainly the case for Aaron Wan Bissaka. He's Mr. Consistent. He is absolutely Mr. Consistent. I think when we do our player ratings, he's between a 6 and an 8 every single game. There ain't many players like that. And we've been doing player ratings a little while over at Hammers Chat, and we do it over on our Patreon channel. Links in the description below, by the way, if you want to check it out. You've got a 7-day free trial over there at the moment. Well, at the moment, been running that for a long time. Go and check it out. You can actually go and look back at our old stuff as well if you go and do it. But so we've got an archive of scores we've given people, and it's wonderfully collated by Stephen, who over on Hammers Chat Patreon collates it all. So we've got all this data. It's impressive. When we say we have our organic Hammer of the Year, the reason we call it organic is it is mathematically done. So every game we rate each player out of 10, and then that goes into the supercomputer. Basically, we give it to Stephen, and he calculates it. And everybody that's a patron, it all goes in, and we do a sort of show based around it. But the reason it's organic Hammer of the Year is because when we get to the end, it will be the player that we've rated the highest, most consistently throughout the season. So I think he's going to win it. But I just look at this player, and we are lucky that he's been to the big club and he's failed. We are, because if he hadn't have had the move, if he was playing like this now, and he was 24 or 25, somebody would have him away. Might be Arsenal, might be Liverpool, maybe Liverpool want him because Trent's. I know they've got Bradley there, but because Trent's off to Real Madrid in the summer, supposedly. Maybe it's Man City. We wouldn't hold on to him. We'd be fighting them off. We really would. So we're lucky. We're lucky that we've got him. And you couldn't buy him off West Ham now. Maybe you could, but you couldn't offer us enough money. We'd just say no. And the fact that it didn't work out at Manchester United, maybe they don't look at the nuance. It would probably be enough to make any big club think, nah, actually, we won't bother. So I think we've got him, and I think I always find it fascinating. I said the other day, you always get some pushback. You can't ever say anything that's going to please everyone, right? You're not going to do that. So I mentioned the other day that I thought that Thomas Souček would go down as a West Ham legend. Now, at the time, I was just sort of quantifying it and sort of putting it out there to before I was going to say that I thought he'd played crap against Brentford. But I do think he'll go down as a West Ham legend. I think he'll go as a cult hero, maybe not a legend, cult hero, something like that. It'd be good. We will reflect on him well. As I say, it'd be like... Well, be more than a Ginger Pele because he's won trophies and he scored loads of goals. But you get what I mean. I think, he's so committed to the cause. I think he'd be a West Ham cult hero. Certainly. And when I said that, there were a number of people who pushed back on it. There were a number of people who said, no way. No, I probably used the word legend. And to be fair, I think the people probably came back and said, no way is he a West Ham legend. And I sort of get it. And there's this thing, isn't there? I mean, I'm lucky enough to see Trevor Brooking play, lucky enough to see Billy Bonds play, lucky enough to see a few of these players play who get classed as West Ham legends, but it's almost like nobody since then can get classed as a West Ham legend. I think if you win a trophy, I think if you win a trophy, I think you've got to be allow your sort to be chucked in with them. But anyway, regardless of whether you think he will be or he won't be, I made the point, and I'm always fascinated by players like that, players that come to West Ham who are not from West Ham and then become cult heroes. And I think if he stays here, and I think he will, whatever he signed, a 5-year contract, if Aaron Wan Bissaka stays here for the next 5 years, I think he'll be an absolute terrace favourite. Ain't got any terraces anymore. I think he'll be an absolute terrace favourite. I really do. Obviously, somebody say, see you like him then. Yeah, I do. I think he's absolutely sensational. Absolutely brilliant player. Very lucky to have him. I think we probably pulled Manchester United pants down a little bit with it. Speaking of pants, by the way, go and check out our bubble pants. That sounds a bit gross. We're blowing bubbles in our pants. Kashart, isn't it? No, seriously, hammerschatstore.com. Go and have a look. The link's in the description below. We've got a pre-order some pants. I think they're nice pants. Stunning pants. Nice. Anyway, catch up with you tomorrow.